So today is an extremely grey day, so excuse the lighting, but today I'm going to tell you how I got my baby boy to sleep through the night from 7 to 7 and what method I used and how I got there in the end. Obviously, disclaimer, this is just my baby, this is not your baby, every baby is different, and if you listen to this and you think, do you know what, I know my child, that would not work for them. Obviously, mother's instinct knows best. This video was highly requested after I put up my video of my bedtime routine for my boys. This is just what I did and this is what worked. I don't want any sort of like controversialness around this. I just want to tell you what I did because it literally changed my life and made me enjoy being a mother a lot more. So basically, I'll start at the beginning. So my son Fraser, he was never a good sleeper. He never really would settle very easily. And in the early days, I think he did have a bit of reflux. He used to only really sleep for like 2-3 hours at the most at a time before getting up again. And it was exhausting because I was breastfeeding and he'd always want that. So it would always be me getting up to do all the nighttime stuff as well. And I was just like dead on my feet. All the bad sleeping went on until he was about 9 months old. And then I was like, enough is enough. And I really did some research and read some different ideas and ways to do it. And I realized that my son had a sleep association. So although we had a really good bedtime routine, which is key for getting your child to sleep well, it was the same routine every night from the age of 8 weeks old, he'd still be getting up all the time. So I worked out he had a sleep association because he would always fall asleep on my breast. What a sleep association is, we naturally have different levels of sleep. How I will explain it to you is if your husband ever goes away on like a stag do or a business trip or something, and you kind of like come to at like 3 AM and you sort of notice that they're not there and it kind of like wakes you up because they're always there. Or if you wake up in a different place and you kind of wake up a bit more because you're not at home. That is what was happening to him. So he would obviously fall asleep on my breast. I put him in his cot and then 2 hours later he would kind of come to like this lesser level of sleep, notice that my breast was gone and that I was gone, and he would panic and wake up crying because he was like, where's she gone? I fell asleep with her. Then I have to go in and I have to breastfeed him and I put him back down. It was just this horrible pattern that just happened non-stop. So the only way to break that is to teach your child the skill of falling asleep on their own, which is easier said than done. I did do the FERBER method of crying out, and before you click off, I am probably like one of the softest parents you will meet, and I hate hearing my children cry, but it got to a point where I needed to do something. I hate it being called the crying out method because really you're just teaching your child another skill. You're teaching your child the skill of how to fall asleep on their own. It's something that is really good to learn. It's something that everyone, you know, needs to learn. When he was 9 months old, I finally got the guts to do it, and I was like, right, I'm doing this. I read the whole FERBER method, which I'll link if you want to read it in more detail. First of all, you want to be sure that your baby does have a sleep association and there isn't something else wrong. You want to make sure that they're not ill, that they're not teething. If they're falling asleep while they're being rocked or fed or patted or tickled or anything like that, and they're waking up a lot in the night, chances are they might have a sleep association, and this method might work for your baby. The way that I knew was if my baby would be crying in his cot and I'd go in and I'd pick him up, he would instantly stop and just fall straight asleep on my shoulder or on me again. So it was obvious that all he wanted was me. He had been teething, the crying wouldn't have stopped if you picked him up. He would have stayed quite angry if he was ill. So I was like, right, I was confident. So you want your baby to be sleepy but awake. So I would get Fraser sleepy, doing the whole bedtime routine and feeding him, but before I put him in his cot, I would kind of wake him up. And if he'd had a really busy day, I would physically wake him up, like I'd maybe bring him out of the room into like a lighter room, and he'd come to a bit, and then I'd take him back in and I'd put him in his cot so he was awake, so that he saw himself falling asleep in his bed. So this method for me took 4 or 5 days, but it can take up to a week. And if it doesn't kind of work after a week, you might want to look at why that is, and if it's not working for both of you, you know, stop for a while and then try again later when you're sort of feeling a bit braver. The method is to put them down awake in their cot, and you leave the room. To begin with, he was upset, So you wait, they sort of like are crying, and you wait for 3 minutes before you go back in. After 3 minutes, you go back in and you sort of pat their back and, you know, sort of like reassure them that you haven't, you know, abandoned them. You are there. They just, you know, it's time to go to sleep now. Don't pick them up, which is the hardest part, because you want to pick them up, but you don't. Just pat them on the back and then you leave again. And then you wait 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, you go back in and you do the whole reassurance thing. I'm still here, it's okay, shush, shush, shush. Then I waited 10 minutes. Same thing again, go back in, and then wait 15 minutes. And you kind of go up in like 5-minute intervals after that. The first night, it took him 40 minutes to go to sleep, and we both cried throughout the whole time of it. But once he did go to sleep, he stayed asleep for much longer than he would normally do that. And then he woke up again at 4 AM and we did the whole thing again. But if you think that they're hungry, obviously you do what you think is best. Then the second night, it took only 20 minutes for him to settle and doing this whole 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes thing. And then the third night, it was like 10, and then by the fourth night, it was like 3 or 5 minutes, and he kind of had got the hang of it. And yeah, it literally, this method really did work for me. It changed my life. I was like a new person who didn't have to live on coffee, and it really did help my mood and help me just get back on track and just make life a lot easier. Hope this video was helpful. Again, I'll put all the links down below. Hope that you guys can get some sleep. I do now, and it's amazing.